Hi, everybody. I'm international publicist Michelle Tennant Nicholson. And as you know, I have a pet project called howtobeaprecinctleader.org. And it's in my commitment to impact, get out the vote in 2018 midterm elections. I am honored to have with me Toby Hampson, the North Carolina Court of Appeals candidate. And Toby, tell us a little bit. I've never met you, so tell me a little bit about yourself and what brings us together.
Great. Well, hi, Michelle. I'm running for one of the open seats on the North Carolina Court of Appeals this fall. It's the seat being vacated by Judge Anne Marie Calabria. I'm running for the Court of Appeals because now more than ever, we need judges who have the right experience to serve on that court. For the last 16 years, both clerking at the Court of Appeals and then in private practicing, representing everybody from indigent parents to businesses and corporations of all sizes, I have the right experience. I am a board certified specialist in appellate practice. I serve on the Appellate Rules Committee. I've been fortunate to be endorsed by former judges Eddie Green, Bob Hunter, Martha Geer. I've also been endorsed by former Supreme Court Justice Timmons Goodson. So I've been fortunate to have a lot of support. And it's just really vital this year more than ever that we have judges who are committed to an independent judiciary, judges who understand that our judicial branch is a co-equal branch of government under our constitutional system, and judges who are dedicated to giving everybody their day in court, no matter who they are, where they come from, or how much they have.
Now, so one of the things that I took on in the past 2 years is being vice chair of our precinct here in East Flat Rock in Henderson County, North Carolina. And I am really wanting to be guided by the candidates on the type of messaging that you would love precinct leaders to say when I'm on the phone with them, when I'm canvassing, and we have a team. You know, one of my precinct in particular is one of the poorest performing precincts historically. And it's maybe because it's rural, maybe because we're in the Bible Belt and there's lots of farmers who, I don't care about politics. Who knows what the reason is, right? But I really want to make an impact for you and actually get the word out for all candidates. Guide me a little bit on what we should say about you to my neighbors who, we're all into beekeeping and chickens and goats and horses. So why should we care, Toby?
Well, number one, the first thing is that the Court of Appeals really, really matters. You know, that court has an incredible impact on the lives of all North Carolinians. It decides cases from all 100 counties in practically every area of law. I mean, so we are talking about, you know, if you're charged with a crime, if you've been hurt at work, if you have a dispute with a company, if you were in a car accident, if you are a business owner, if you're trying to navigate municipal or county regulations, if you're trying to deal with government agencies, all those are the kinds of cases that come before the North Carolina Court of Appeals. So that's why it really matters that you elect judges who do kind of have the hands-on experience, an understanding of what it means to come before that court, because decisions of that court do impact the lives of all North Carolinians. You know, they guide the decisions of trial judges and administrators all across the state in all areas of law. So in a lot of ways, the Court of Appeals can have a more direct impact on your day-to-day life than almost any other area of government.
So it's really, I did a little research on who you are and just trying to get to know you a little bit, Toby. And I do have that experience where I used to live in Chicago for 5 years. I lived in Cincinnati for 5 years. So I get that urban perspective too. But now, you know, I'm a whitewater kayaker, I mountain bike, and I live here in East Flat Rock. And all of my neighbors, one of the things that we share in common, despite our political differences, is a love of nature. And we really look for candidates who are doing right by the environment. And I noticed that you were endorsed by the Sierra Club. So tell us why that's important and why should we have environmentally conscious judges over someone who might have a little more experience, let's say, in a city or urban environment. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. You know, it's really important primarily because, you know, these environmental issues are so fundamental. They come, I mean, when we talk about issues clean water, development regulations, administration of statutes and other government regulations. Again, it's just really important that you have judges who have the background, who have the understanding of these incredibly complex and important issues from a broad variety of standpoints. One of the things I've done is to help represent municipalities here in Wake County, like the town of Wake Forest and the town of Zebulon. And so I understand some of these quasi-judicial procedures, the public hearing procedures, the developmental regulations, and the interplay of state statutory regulation and more local regulation of development and those kinds of issues. And these are issues that do come before the Court of Appeals. And so again, I think it's just vital that we have judges who are aware of these issues and judges who understand the law and regulations behind those issues when we're making these really important decisions that impact all North Carolinians and the environment where we live.
I love that. And, one of the things that I wanted to find out is what does Henderson County, what do my neighbors really care about? And since I typically have an international view on my PR campaigns, I was like, let's just ask people. And what people are saying, regardless of political affiliation, is that they're very interested in security. And that means job security. That means health care. That means, security inside their homes. And so, the gun issue, and of course, in a rural area, we have a lot of varying opinions about that. So as far as it comes to security, I'd love to hear your ideas. And then I'll go on to the other two, which basically are community leadership and well, let's just zero in on, because that first one's such a big one, right? So security. So I want to know that I've got health care, that I'm in a safe home, and that I've got a job. Why do judges matter in those areas that are so core to people?
Well, number one, it's because it's decisions of our courts that kind of sort of interpret the courts interpret the laws that impact every one of those issues that you've ticked off, and so in doing that, it's what gives guidance to our trial courts. It's what gives guidance to our lawyers. It's what gives guidance to regular citizens. And so it's important to have judges who can apply that law fairly and consistently. You talk about security. There's security in knowing exactly the rules that you're playing by in all these areas of law. Security in being able to understand how those rules are applied. And that's going to be what's key for Court of Appeals judges in writing these opinions that do interpret the laws that are made by the legislature, and being able to clearly articulate the rules of the game, the rules that we all have to live and play by on a daily basis. And that provides its own form of security.
So the other two that were of core issues to Henderson County was really walking our talk when it comes to goodwill and charity work. So I'd love to know any charity work that you're doing, and then also just community leadership in general. Are we really giving back to our communities by giving service? So anything you would like the voters to know and the precinct leaders to know about the goodwill that you do in the communities?
Yeah. Well, from a private practice standpoint, one of the things I've been most proud of is helping to represent indigent parents whose parental rights have been challenged and are at risk, and who are in dire situations much of the time. So that's a really important piece of my work, providing representation to those people who would not otherwise not have their rights protected, not have their day in court in a fair and just manner. So that's a really important piece of my practice. Outside of my law practice, I'm really involved in my church. In Winborn United Methodist Church here in Raleigh. I recently completed my term as chair of the trustees. I lead the men's group and very active in the missions of that church. That seems to be really where I feel called to serve in a large number of ways in a number of ministries there. I also serve on the North Carolina State Bar Association Appellate Rules Committee, helping to help improve appellate and appeals advocacy throughout the state. I serve on the State Bar's Appellate Specialization Committee. And so I really have tried to be involved both within my church community and within the legal community in trying uh, to improve the community in those sorts of ways.
That's really wonderful. I just really, no matter what people's political affiliation, I think that it speaks volumes of how people show up in their communities and who they are, and that you have a nice rounded spiritual and environmental backing. That's really key for me. As a former fifth grade teacher myself, one of the things I like to do is really boil it down to very simple language. And so everybody who's feels like they're a smarty pants can now turn the video off. But let's talk to the kids and to people who really need a simple level conversation about what the appellate court does, right? So help me educate my precinct. So let's say I end up in court for whatever reason. I've had some awful car accident, and it doesn't go my way, and I have to, get an appeal. Then it comes to you, right? So even though I'm in Henderson County, it's going to go up to your level for reconsideration. Can you boil it down a little bit like we're talking to fifth grade?
Sure. So the Court of Appeals sits in Raleigh. It's made up of 15 judges. Those 15 judges sit in panels of 3. Now, it's different from the trial court. It's different from when you have a trial. There's no jury. There are no witnesses. There's no testimony. There's no evidence. So when you're in the Court of Appeals, you file a written brief, a written argument, essentially arguing why you think the trial court got it right, if you prevailed, or why you think the trial court got it wrong. Now, that court is not rehearing the evidence. It's not rejudging the evidence of the case. It's looking for legal errors. And so it is much different in that respect. If you've ever seen video or pictures from the U.S. Supreme Court, it's much like that. The judges sit up at the bench and they ask the lawyers questions about the legal issues in the case. And so that's the kind of court it is. It's not one that's taking testimony. It's not one taking evidence. It's really drilling down on the key legal issues on the case. And that's what makes it a really kind of unique, specialized practice, and why we need judges who do have that kind of hands-on experience with all kinds of areas of law and a broad-based knowledge of the law.
And Toby, how long will your term be, provided that you're elected?
Currently, it's an 8-year term, which is designed to preserve kind of the independence of the judiciary while preserving the rights of people to elect their judges under our Constitution.
So I just want to tell people now in closing that a lot of times we think, oh, it's not important to vote in the midterms. And voting for somebody like Toby is why we vote in the midterms, because it is very important and your vote does matter. So what about criticisms of the voting process or things of that nature? Why does my vote for you matter, Toby? Tell us that, and any closing remarks you'd like for us to know.
Well, your vote matters because up and down the ballot, every one of these races have an impact on the lives of North Carolinians. And that's why it does matter so much, not to just vote sort of the top of the ticket. And even though we are statewide races as appellate judicial candidates, we are with the judges towards the bottom of the ballot and the bottom of the partisan races. But it's those down ballot races that really do have a day-to-day impact on your life. That is why it's important to vote for your clerks of court and your sheriffs and your district attorneys and your district court judges, superior court judges, and appellate judges, because from a day-to-day perspective, those are the votes that are going to have a direct impact in your life come January 1st. 2019. So
thank you really appreciate you being with me here today. And is the best place for people to find you on Facebook, because you have Toby Hampson for Judge at Facebook?
Toby Hampson for Judge on Facebook and TobyHampsonforJudge.com on the internet.
So great. Thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This has been really, really fun. I enjoyed it.
Awesome.